Thank you, Sally. And we are privileged today, we are honored today to have the presence of David Allen Brown here. Ironically, lives in Indianapolis, but yet has spoken at Unity in Cincinnati. What's up with that? So we need to work on that. But I want to share a little bit of background about David. So David has been teaching personal empowerment, leadership, organizational development, self-discovery, and spirituality to audiences across the country for more than 30 years. He is the author of many books, including Answer the Call, What to Do When Spirit Arrives to Transform Your Life, and Self-Help Paradox. He frequently leads classes and services at progressive congregations, including more than a decade of service at the New Thought Unity Center of Cincinnati, and churches from Florida to Minnesota, Arizona to New York. He also facilitates and consults for corporations and nonprofit organizations, leading programs on leadership, culture, authenticity, presentation skills, and staff development. Today, he brings his message, Our Most Important Relationship. Please join me in welcoming David.
Yeah, it gets better. I walked here. I literally live 2.5 blocks away. And so yes, and it isn't my first time here. It's my first time here in a while. And it's lovely to see some familiar faces and also to be back. And I appreciate the invitation. Thank you. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'll get one of those on the way. I'm wondering, I'd like to invite you to start with just a little exercise that will make more sense later, but I think it's important and it follows the theme of what we've done so far. It's just a very brief meditation of a type. So I invite you to take a deep breath with me, if you would. And relax into your chair for just a moment. Close your eyes if it feels comfortable for you, or otherwise just divert your attention. And just listen to my prompts for a moment, following the music of what we've heard already. Let's just be still for a moment and take a deep breath and release and feel the presence of God around you. Feel the presence of God within you. Feel the presence of God as part of you. And take a deep breath. And release. And know confidently the Spirit of God that is within you. Sense it. Welcome it. Embrace it. And take a deep breath. And release, and feel this energy embrace you as well. And I ask you to consider the following questions, the answers of which are your own truth. Consider for a moment how you perceive the strength of God within you. Title aside, what do you attribute to the power of higher spirit, of holiness, of God, of wisdom? What could possibly diminish the power of God? Think for yourself for a moment if there's anything that could take away from the strength of the power of God. Consider the list of resources at hand in the power and energy of a loving God. consider for a moment the expansive possibilities of the wisdom and imagination of the power of Spirit throughout and within. And maybe boil this down to a couple of key words for you, a mantra, if you will, that helps you remember the power of Holy Spirit, of God, of wisdom, of the divine, of the beloved, of the mother and father, of however you choose to introduce and remember. Know now the power of God. And when it feels comfortable to you, return to this space. Keep that mantra with you. Keep that thought there. Let's go on a little journey around and back to that thought, shall we? When I was thinking about this presentation and getting ready, let me start that again. When I was overthinking this presentation, and it's a thing I do, I managed to get to sleep eventually last night, but I woke up and I was still thinking about it. It's just what happens for me. And I was in Cincinnati last week and gave something slightly different, and I'll be in Dayton next week, Unity there. And so it's always sort of, if it's Sunday, it must be Unity. What am I talking about? But I wanted to also reintroduce myself, as I have to all the time whenever I go. I'm a guest speaker. I do that on purpose. Your ministers and their team need the opportunity to have breaks and to focus on other things, etc. So this is what I do constantly. The good news is, I thought when I was introducing myself, last year I wrote a memoir, which is the story of my life. It's only 90,000 words, and I thought the easiest way for us to get to know each other would be I would just read it to you. So, all of it, I think, from beginning to end. So settle in. It's going to be a great day. Yeah. I have a workshop today at noon. We'll have to move that probably a little bit, but here we go. The introduction. Okay, maybe not. People I know talked me out of that particular thing. I like it. Say a little prayer to the publishers at this point who are reviewing it. I guess all I can really say is that I do what I do. I bring myself here. What I've decided in all of my work now is that I'm going to just skip the small talk if it's okay. I have some lighter and some more friendly and some more giggly programs that I've done over my years, and I bring those because, it's my first time. I want them to like me. It's a big thing. Me and my therapist work on that a lot. And so I want you to laugh, and I want it to be... But you know what? I think we're to a point now, just know we're just going to dive right in. I'm just going to offer myself to you, and we're just going to skip the small talk. We're going to be real with each other. We're going to ask for a call to authenticity, which is what I'm seeking in all of my relationships these days. It's what I'm striving for wherever I go. My story, my memoir, the reason it may be compelling to anyone who might want to publish it is a story of being really quite empowered and quite connected and quite confident in my connection to the divine as a young person. And then there being a rather long and difficult and tumultuous decline into some places that were pretty unhealthy and pretty dark. And now I'm bouncing back, and it's not easy. In fact, it's quite overwhelming. But I found that me being authentic is the most potent energizer in my journey. And I want to be that in relationship. I've come to discover one of the themes reading back my own memoir, my own story, was I discovered there was a great deal of isolation in my history, a great deal of getting smaller and smaller in that decline into losing who I was and letting go of what I like to do is be right here and see people and be in relationship with them. And so I wanted to dive into, relationships and how do I make that the best possible? And I came across an author you may be familiar with. His name is Gary Zukav. Yeah, plenty of books he has, A Seat of the Soul and the rest. And in The Seat of the Soul, he says this: when you commit to spiritual partnership, That sounded pretty good to me, rather than relationship, spiritual partnership. You begin to set aside the wants of your personality in order to accommodate the needs of your partner's spiritual growth. Okay? And in doing that, you grow yourself. That's how spiritual partnership works. You begin to see what is necessary to the health of your partner is identical with what is necessary to your own spiritual growth. Yeah, cool, I want that. And then I got to be honest, I'm not really, let's say, thriving in the interpersonal relationship part of my life right now. I have other things to sort through, and they tend to be, more inwardly. And yet I want to be in relationship, and I'm finding that I am. We'll get to that in just a minute. But it occurred to me that if I wanted to start somewhere in creating the ultimate spiritual partnership, the place to begin was my most important relationship. And that was my relationship between myself and how I perceive God. One of the recognitions as I began to emerge from the darkness was an understanding that I was not in partnership with God. I was not evoking the power of God into my life at the times in which I needed it most. In fact, I had ignored it, or I had shut that voice down completely. And that led to where I had ended up. So it occurred to me, could I take Zukhov's 4 suggestions or guides for human interpersonal relationships and instead, or in addition, put them into my relationship with God, my most important relationship? And that's what I bring to you today. These 4 things and these 4 shifts in perception that allow us to have a relationship in a new way, to engage in the relationship. And the first one is a commitment to growth. A spiritual partnership has a commitment to growth, which is a fundamental desire of mine. It's where I fall in what I do. And yet, well, here's some words about it from, this is someone who wrote about, this is not Zukhov's words. Underpinning all true spiritual partnerships is a mutual commitment to growth. Spiritual partners are souls progressing through a much broader spiritual journey. When you commit to growth, you open yourself to allowing new ideas and perspectives to live a fuller, happier, and more loving life together. I want that. And I want to evoke the power of God in that. And as humans, as a human animal, human physiology, human psychology, we are inclined to not want to change. We are inclined to seek peace and comfort. We are inclined to settle into that which we can predict. It's not our fault. There's no fault. It is, in fact, our physiology. Our beings are designed to anticipate what's coming next, be able to make certain they'll be safe, and settle into whatever is the safest choice. Growth, a commitment to growth, takes intention. It takes agreement. And for me, a few years ago, it took bravery, a willingness to look around and see that staying in what's, let's call a stoic marriage of 23 years was not, in fact, allowing me the growth that I needed, and in fact had stunted my growth for years. Not because it was bad or dangerous or abusive, but because I had settled for accepting what was and had released this highly coveted, for me, spiritual principle that growth is life. And so, for that reason, among others, I took a big, giant step forward and said, I need to do something different. We agreed we would do something different. And that's not easy, and it's not simple, and it's not small. It is, in fact, the upending of your entire life. And it's interesting because I equated it to when we were having children, and people would say, oh, you're having kids? Yeah, we're very excited. And they would give you this sort of look like, like you are excited and you have no idea what's coming. What was interesting to me was that when I told people I was getting divorced, they had the very same reaction, like, oh, you're excited, and yeah, you have no idea what's actually coming. You don't know what it means to completely upend your life in that way. And so the last 2.5 years have been really dramatic and wonderful and amazing, and it feels like getting back into relationship with who I am and who I am as a spiritual being and who God is around me. And part of that is because I entered into the second agreement in a spiritual partnership, which is that we will honor and respect each other. And when I say each other, I mean myself and myself, my capital S self, my spiritual self, my God self, the personification of God. This means recognizing that even in moments when the relationship is trying, like, hey, why don't you upend your entire life? Your partner is playing exactly the role you need. In spiritual terms, in church terms, we call this having faith. Understanding that no matter what's happening around us, and there's a lot happening around us, that it is in fact happening as part of a plan that is of the divine. Being in spiritual partnership means that we have faith. And when we're in spiritual partnership with God, we have to remind ourselves of that often. The gift of faith, though, is that faith allows us to move forward. Without faith, I look at everything that's out there, it scares the bejeebus out of me, and I go into a corner and I say, I'm okay, I don't need to do anything. Faith allows me to step forward. We step forward in faith. Spiritual partnership allows the faith that gets me out of bed sometimes, literally, gets me on this stage sometimes, creates this program I'd like to introduce you to in my workshop this afternoon, allows me to upend my life. But in faith, in partnership with God, I will step forward. And then in the midst of all that stepping forward, stuff happens, to say the least. And so we respond with the third component of a spiritual partnership, and that is trust. Which is whatever has happened, I trust that it happened for my greatest good. See, the partnership I want to be in, personally and spiritually, is the one that fundamentally understands that the other entity, let's say, since we're speaking of the greatness of God, is on my side. See, I have to trust wherever I am, with whomever I'm with, and when I call upon the energy of God, that it is all meant to be leading towards my perfect happiness. As A Course in Miracles reminds us, God's will for me is my perfect happiness. And even when there are times when I'm called to do things I'm not certain of, I have stepped forth in faith, and I trust in the result. It's interesting, I was watching a clip, my feed, whatever, and it was Ram Dass, and they were talking about relationships on the interpersonal level. And they were talking about, what do you do when you're in love? What do you do when you're in love? What do you want for the person you're in love with? You want them to be able to hear the microphone. You want them to be happy. When you're in love with someone, you want them to be happy. First and foremost, you want them to be happy. And so if the thing that they're doing makes them happy, why are you shutting it down? Why are you telling them not to do it? Why are you taking it away from them? Why are you judging them? Why are you asking them to do something different on your behalf when the thing that they're doing makes them happy? Why would you ever deny someone else their happiness? And I have to believe that God is saying the same thing about me. I would never deny you your happiness. I saw this another clip with Oprah on it. It's flat out. You cannot be friends with someone who is jealous in any way of your success, of anyone who tears down anything that leads you to the place that makes you bigger or better, that shuts down your desire for that thing that makes you happy in essentially the same way. And I know they were talking about people, and I'm talking about God. I will open the channel to an understanding that the universe, that God, that spirit, that energy is working on my behalf. I will trust. So what are they? Commitment to growth, honor, respect, faith, and a trust that it's all working towards my greatest good. And here's what this author says. In order to be completely trusting, open and honest, in order to be completely open and honest, we are required not only the element of trust, but the willingness to be vulnerable. Okay, let's breathe around that one for a second. Because we've gone to a new place. We've reminded ourselves of the partnership of this relationship. Because it requires something of us. And what it requires of us is a vulnerability that maybe we weren't quite ready for before. It requires for us a strength, a calling, an openness, an honesty, an authenticity. Some friends have read my manuscript. I've warned them ahead of time. Are you sure you want to know me that well? Because when I sat down to write it, there would be no holds barred. It would be the honest, authentic me, finally. And there it is. And people come back to me and say, thank you. And I say, you're welcome. There's a lot happening for me right now. And I have to step forward in these places. But I said there were 4 agreements. And the last one is the kicker. So hold on. In Zukov, it is the understanding that the perhaps most important guideline for spiritual partnership is that you and your partner respect each other's equality in all matters. Equality. Okay. I want to provide, that's an important word for us now. That's an important value for many of us right now. And when I see you, when I come across anyone, any beloved divine being, equality, absolutely. Now, I'm talking about the relationship between you and higher power. We are not the church of benevolent, quiet respect, of letting go of prayer and wishing and hoping that whoever that wisdom being out there favors us. We are not likely the church that believes that God is rooting for our sports team. That's not the God that we surround ourselves by, the one that's influencing us. We are surrounded, as my book, Course in Miracles, is my way of remembering this. What's your way of remembering this? Whatever your book is, let me remember I am one with God. Today we do not doubt his love for us or question his protection or care. You will see that all of this light belongs to you. We are unity, where principle 2 is our essence is of God, where principle 3 is we are co-creators with God. I'm inviting you to understand the equality of the power of God to the power you have. The mantra, remember? We did it 15 minutes ago. That moment of stillness in which you remembered the power of God, in which you understood the expansiveness of God, in which I invited you to consider all of the resources, all of the imagination, all of the incredible abilities of God. Yours. We are the church that understands that you in human form are divine. That you in this place have the same abilities that God, that you have the ability to love unconditionally, that you have the ability to forgive, that you have the ability to provide grace, that you have the ability to bring light and love everywhere you are, whether you are alone or whether you are with someone else. The extraordinary power of entering into your most important relationship as a spiritual partnership is that because you have the power to enact all that God is in every moment, in every place. Yes, suddenly I'm not in relationship. No, suddenly I'm not married. Suddenly I don't have a primary intimate relationship. I'm constantly in relationship, more than I ever was before, because I'm standing up and showing up in light and knowing without fear that the power of God is with me wherever I go. Suddenly, I am beginning a new business venture. Having been a stay-at-home dad for 16 years, having this gap in my resume that says, we don't know what you do or what you did or how you've done it, so it's hard to hire you at your age at the salary you expect. So why don't you go into business for yourself, David? That'll just take off, no problem. That's easy. Okay, I'll step forward in that. I'll move past the times, the darkness when I was out of relationship. I'll move past that sense, that memory, that oh so clear memory of driving through the streets of Indianapolis during the pandemic at night, feeling all of the weight of everything that had happened, 90,000 words worth, driving around and looking and wondering and passing each overpass or each bridge abutment and remembering that I had read somewhere that if I crash my car, the forensic team will know that it was on purpose because there were no skid marks or whatever, and so they will know that I did it that way. And so don't do it, David, because you don't want your kids to remember that. And consciously steering away and eventually back home. I'll step out of all of those places, even today or yesterday or recently, when my body, now that I'm back living again, is decided to give me lots of input, and sometimes there is the true just acid dump of anxiety about money. And then I'll remember. How could I ever wonder? How could I ever relish in fear? How could I ever stay in the darkness if I can bear in mind that I am a partner with God? And all of the resources and all of the love and all of the light and all of the prosperity and all of the joy and all of the expansiveness that we seek is there because I can bring it here. I'm worth it. And I'm worthy of it. And so are you. Amen.